Greetings, Lore Masters. Tonight our chronicle covers the paths less travelled. The choices that leave a warm glow in your chest rather than a stain on your soul. We are looking at those 15 hidden good endings to quests that frustrated, baffled, or outright tormented us. These are the narrative trapdoors that let us escape the grimdark reality of Tamriel, finding a sliver of hope in a province obsessed with the end of the world. The wind is howling outside, stripping the warmth from the stone, much like the gales battering the throat of the world. You can almost feel the frost nipping at your nose, the thinning air making your chest heave as you stare out over the white expanse of Skyrim. Let's be honest, you probably wouldn't survive a trip to High Hrothgar without some serious enchanted gear, or at least a very warm pair of socks, considering the frost trolls seem to view hikers as spicy popsicles. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're settling in, tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is in your corner of the waking world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The Dragonborn stands at the precipice of the world, snow swirling around iron boots that have trekked from the salt marshes of Morthal to the ash wastes of Solstheim. But the coldest chill doesn't come from the altitude. It comes from a conversation held in the dank, dust-choked halls of Skyhaven Temple. The quest log blinks with a demand that feels less like a heroic objective and more like a betrayal of the fundamental principles of friendship. This is the Paarthurnax dilemma, the moment where the game demands a blood sacrifice that feels entirely wrong, and the good ending isn't found in completing the quest, but in the stubborn, silent refusal to engage with it at all. For the uninitiated, or those whose memories have been clouded by too much skooma, the conflict arises near the climax of the main story. You have battled alongside the Blades, Delphine and Esbern. You have rebuilt their order, recruited followers to their cause, and listened to Esbern ramble about prophecies until your eyes glazed over. But then, the hammer drops. They discover that the leader of the Greybeards, the ancient master who taught humanity how to shout, is a dragon named Paarthurnax. Not just any dragon, but the former lieutenant of Alduin, the World Eater. Delphine, with the characteristic warmth of a glacier, issues an ultimatum. Kill Paarthurnax, or the Blades will offer you no further aid. This is where the narrative friction becomes almost unbearable. The game presents this as a binary choice. Kill the dragon to progress the Blades faction questline, or do nothing. In the vanilla game, there is no option to talk Delphine down. There is no speech. Check to remind her that she serves the Dragonborn, not the other way around. There is only the blade or the silence, and it is in that silence that we find the first hidden good ending. Consider the entity you're asked to kill. Paarthurnax sits atop the throat of the world, a creature of immense power who has spent thousands of years in isolation, meditating to overcome his innate nature. He is a dragon, and as he tells the player, dragons are driven by a lust for power and domination. It is their very soul. His name, Paarthurnax, translates from the dragon language, Dovasul, as Ambition Overlord Cruelty. It is not a gentle name. It is a name soaked in the blood of the Dragon War. Yet, for millennia, he has sat on the peak, battling not knights or wizards, but his own instinct. He teaches the way of the voice, a philosophy of pacifism and worship of kine. When the Dragonborn arrives, clueless and shouting at the sky, Paarthurnax offers wisdom, patience, and critical assistance in defeating Alduin. The good ending here is the Dragonborn's conscious decision to ghost the Blades. It's the choice to leave that quest marker hovering in the journal eternally, a permanent scar on your completionist record, in exchange for the life of the only being who truly understands what you are. By refusing to kill Paarthurnax, you preserve the sanctuary of High Hrothgar. The Greybeards remain your allies, continuing to mark words of power on your map. You can still climb the 7,000 steps to meditate on words like Fus, Faim, or Yol, receiving buffs that aid your journey. This relationship is preserved only through inaction. This leads to a fascinating dynamic within the game's mechanics. Core in-game. Fact: if you kill Paarthurnax, the Greybeards will shun you forever. Arngir, usually the most communicative of the monks, will tell you to leave and never return, effectively cutting you off from the Radiant quest to find shouts. Conversely, if you spare him, Delphine and Esbern will refuse to speak to you, essentially locking you out of dragon-hunting Radiant quests. The game forces a divorce. You get custody of either the monks or the spies. Most players, after the initial shock of Delphine's demand, realise that the blades offer very little compared to the philosophical weight of the Greybeards. Delphine is a Breton who spent 30 years running an inn, yet she presumes to order the execution of a being older than her entire civilization. The audacity is breathtaking. However, the lore runs deeper than just Delphine's bad attitude. Obscure lore. Tidbit. The Blades weren't always the Blades. They evolved from the Akaviri Dragon Guard, a group of vampire snakeman hunters from the continent of Akavir who invaded Tamriel searching for a Dragonborn. Their original purpose was the extermination of dragons, yes, but they swore fealty to the Emperor because he was Dragonborn. Over eras, they became the Emperor's bodyguards, the spies we saw in Oblivion. By the time of Skyrim, they have regressed to their primal Akaviri roots, obsessed with dragon slaying above all else. Delphine isn't just being stubborn, she is channeling the ancient fanatical directive of an alien culture that viewed dragons not as complex beings, but as the ultimate enemy. She is a relic of an era that doesn't fit the nuance of the Fourth Era. The good ending where Paarthurnax lives is not without its detractors, of course. Fan theory or community debate. The community has debated for over a decade whether Paarthurnax is truly good or simply playing the long game. The theory suggests that as an immortal being, Paarthurnax perceives time differently. He knows the last Dragonborn is immortal, a doom-driven hero who will eventually die. Once the Dragonborn is gone and Alduin is defeated, Paarthurnax will be the most powerful dragon left alive. Some cynical lore scholars argue that he is simply waiting out the clock using the Dragonborn to eliminate his rival Alduin, so he can impose his own tyranny of the Way of the Voice upon the other dragons. After all, if you compel other dragons to be pacifists, you are still exerting dominance over them, just in a different flavour. Is a peaceful dictatorship still a dictatorship? Despite these dark theories, the emotional resonance of the story points toward mercy. When you confront Paarthurnax about Delphine's order, he doesn't get angry, he doesn't breathe fire or threaten you. He sadly acknowledges the validity of her argument. She is not wrong, he rumbles, admitting that he cannot trust himself, that every day is a struggle against his nature. This vulnerability makes the choice to spare him the only one that feels heroic. A hero kills monsters. A legend saves the monster who is trying to be a man. So, the Dragonborn turns their back on Skyhaven Temple. They leave the Blades to rot in their dusty fortress, shouting at wall carvings about the glory days. The journal entry, Kill Paarthurnax, remains uncompleted, a testament to a refusal to follow orders blindly. You return to the throat of the world, not as an executioner, but as a student. You sit in the snow next to the old dragon, watching the clouds drift by below you. He greets you as Dovahkiin, treating you with a respect the Blades never managed to muster. The hidden, good ending is the realization that the quest log does not dictate morality. Just because an objective appears on the screen doesn't mean it must be done. In a world of radiant quests and endless checklists, the act of saying no is the most powerful shout of all. You preserve the history of the voice, you keep the peace at the top of the world, and you maintain your own integrity. The Blades may call you a traitor, but as the wind howls around the peak and Paarthurnax takes flight to circle the summit, you know you made the right choice. The dragons may be dangerous, but the blind zealotry of men, and Bretons with bad attitudes, is often the greater threat to the peace of the realm. And really, who wants to take orders from someone who didn't even know how to use the Horn of Jurgen Windcaller properly? The Greybeards were right all along. Silence is golden, especially when the alternative is murdering your meditative dragon grandpa. Leaving the biting winds of the throat of the world behind, the Dragonborn descends the 7,000 steps, knees likely protesting with every impact, and returns to the rolling golden tundra of Whiterun Hold. The shift in atmosphere is palpable. The aggressive silence of the mountaintop gives way to the ambient noise of a bustling trade hub. But as you pass through the main gates of Whiterun, stepping over the threshold of the Cloud District, yes, Nazim, we get there often enough, a shadow hangs over the city. It isn't a dragon, nor a vampire lord blotting out the sun. It is the skeletal, withered silhouette of the Gildergreen. In the centre of the Wind District, surrounded by benches where weary guards complain about arrow wounds, stands this massive dead tree. It is the heart of the city, a symbol of Kynareth's blessing, and currently it looks like it belongs in a firewood pile rather than a temple courtyard. Danica Purespring, the priestess of Kynareth, is distraught. She explains that the tree was struck by lightning and went dormant. To wake it, she believes she needs the sap of the Eldergleam, the ancient parent tree from which the Gildergreen was cut. But to get that sap, one cannot simply ask nicely. One needs Nettlebane. Here begins the temptation of the violent path. Nettlebane is a Hagraven-crafted dagger, a jagged, nasty piece of ironwork designed specifically to sacrifice living things. The very name implies corruption. To get it, you have to trudge to Orphan Rock and pry it from the cold, dead hands of a Hagraven matriarch. Most adventurers grab the shiv, fast travel to the Eldergleam Sanctuary, hack at the roots, and grab the sap. It's efficient, it's quick, it is also a tragedy. There is, however, a hidden variable in this equation, a variable named Morris Jondrell. When you return to the Temple of Kynareth with Nettlebane in hand, Morris, a pilgrim who's been loitering in the temple, approaches you. He asks to tag along to the sanctuary. Now let's be honest. In the world of Skyrim, when an NPC with no armour and the combat prowess of a sweet roll asks to follow you into a dangerous cave, your instinct is to say absolutely not. Escort missions are the bane of any gamer's existence. They usually end with the NPC getting stuck on a rock or charging a cave bear with their fists. But to unlock the good ending, you must suppress your annoyance and agree to let Morris tag along. The journey to the Eldergleam Sanctuary is a long trek into the volcanic hot springs of Eastmarch. When you arrive, the location is breathtaking. It is one of the few places in Skyrim that feels truly untouched by the war. A massive cavern with a natural skylight, lush vegetation, and the great Eldergleam tree twisting in the centre, its pink leaves glowing softly in the shaft of sunlight. Pilgrims wander peacefully, marvelling at nature's majesty. It is a sanctuary in the truest sense. If you play this the standard way, the bad way, you approach the roots blocking the path to the trunk. You equip Nettlebane. You strike the roots. The tree recoils. It screams. The sound is visceral, a deep wooden groan of pain that echoes through the cavern. As you hack your way up to the trunk to harvest the sap, the sanctuary retaliates. Spriggans detach from the walls and the earth, driven into a frenzy by your desecration. They don't just attack you, they slaughter the unarmed pilgrims nearby. The peaceful nature lovers you walked past moments ago are cut down by the very forest they came to worship. You get your sap, but you leave behind a massacre and a mutilated ancient wonder. But if you brought Morris, the script flips. As you raise Nettlebane to strike the first root, Morris shouts at you. He is horrified. He calls out the sacrilege of using a weapon forged by hagravens, abominations of nature, to assault one of the most sacred living things in Tamriel. He proposes an alternative. He claims that Kynareth doesn't want the violence, she wants renewal. Maurice approaches the tree himself. He doesn't draw a weapon. He prays. In a quiet, unscripted moment that requires no button prompts, the Eldergleam responds to his devotion. A pod opens, and he receives a sapling, a baby Eldergleam. Core in-game. Fact. The Gildergreen in Whiterun is not just a random tree. It is a direct cutting of the Eldergleam, which itself is said to be older than the city of Whiterun, perhaps older than the Nord civilization in Skyrim. By taking the sapling, you're not trying to artificially prolong the life of the old dead stump in Whiterun. You are embracing the cycle of life and death. You bring the sapling back to Danica. She's initially skeptical, mourning the loss of the old tree's grandeur, but she quickly realizes the wisdom in it. The old tree is dead, she admits. It is time for a new one to grow. The benefits of this path are manifold. First and foremost, nobody dies. The pilgrims in the sanctuary continue their worship unharmed. The Spriggans remain dormant. You haven't committed an ecological war crime. Second, you remove the influence of the Hagravens from the equation entirely. Nettlebane remains just a trophy in your chest, never used to harm the divine tree. This quest also highlights a fascinating, obscure lore tidbit. Regarding the magic of the Eldergleam, the weapon Nettlebane is unique because it is one of the few items in the game that implies magic works on a conceptual level rather than just physical. It doesn't just cut wood, it cuts the spirit of the wood. However, the Elder Gleam's reaction to Morris implies that the tree possesses sentience and agency. It chooses to give the sapling. This aligns with lore found in the book The Herbalist's Guide to Skyrim, which suggests that certain flora in Tamriel are not merely plants, but semi-conscious entities connected to the earthbones. The Elder Gleam isn't just a plant, it's a calm, watching presence that rewards respect and punishes aggression. There is, however, a notorious visual quirk associated with this good ending that has fueled community jokes for years. Fan theory or community debate. When you plant the sapling due to a persistent bug in the original game code, and often present in the remasters, the old dead tree frame sometimes fails to disappear. The new green sapling grows inside the dead skeleton of the old Gildergreen, creating a bizarre clipping monstrosity. While patches often fix this, many fans have theorised, tongue firmly in cheek, that this was an intentional representation of the duality of nature, life growing from death. Others argue it's just Bethesda being Bethesda, but from a narrative standpoint, even with the glitch, the symbolism holds. You chose the future over the past. Choosing the sapling is a rejection of the desperate, clawing need to maintain the status quo at all costs. Danica wanted to force the old tree back to life, to zombie resurrect a symbol because she feared change. Morris teaches the Dragonborn that letting go is part of nature. The old tree died. It happens. Replacing it with a young, vibrant sapling is a more honest, hopeful act than pumping the old husk full of magic steroids. When you walk through Whiterun days later, seeing the pink blossoms of the new tree, assuming it hasn't clipped through the old one, the city feels lighter. The priests are happy, the pilgrims in Eastmarch are still alive, and you have the satisfaction of knowing you solved a problem without resorting to violence, a rarity in the life of a Dragonborn. But as the sun sets over the renewed Gildergreen, casting long shadows across the plains, our thoughts turn to another form of consumption. Not the gentle drinking of roots, but a far more sinister hunger. We leave the open air of Whiterun for the stone confines of Markarth, where the dead don't just stay buried, and dinner. Invitations should be viewed with extreme suspicion. From the sun-dappled plains of Whiterun, we travel west, into the jagged, treacherous Reach. The city of Markarth is a fortress of stone carved directly into the mountain by the Dwemer eons ago. It is a place of hard angles, vertical drops, and a history soaked in blood and silver. But beneath the political corruption and the Forsworn insurgency, there lies a darker, more primal secret hidden in the Hall of the Dead. You arrive in Markarth perhaps looking to sell loot or investigate the rumours of the Forsworn, but soon you find yourself entangled in the affairs of Brother Verulus, the priest of Arkay. He is a man under siege, blocked from entering his own crypts by Klepper, the innkeeper, due to reports of corpses being partially eaten. This kicks off the Taste of Death, a quest that is universally regarded as one of the most disturbing in the entire game. The Daedric Prince Namira, the Lady of Decay, has a coven in the Reach, and they are hungry. The quest introduces you to Iola, a woman who recognises the hunger in your eyes, whether you want her to or not. She leads you to Reachcliff Cave, tasking you with clearing out the Draugr so her coven can hold a glorious feast. The guest of honour, Brother Verulus himself. Not as a guest, mind you, but as the main course. The standard path, the evil ending, sees you lure the unsuspecting priest to the cave, where he's hypnotised, laid out on a sacrificial altar, and eaten by you and the coven. In return, you get the Ring of Namira, an artifact that allows you to feed on corpses for health regeneration. It is grotesque, it is vile, and for many role players, it is an immediate reload save moment. But there is a good ending here, hidden in the final moments of the quest, that transforms a horror story into a heroic rescue mission. You play the part of the infiltrator. You clear the Draugr from the cave, maintaining your cover. You return to Markarth and convince Brother Verulus to follow you using your persuasion to tell him you need his priestly protection in the crypts. The poor man, brave but foolish, agrees. He follows you all the way to Reachcliff Cave. As you enter the main chamber, the banquet table is set. The other guests are revealed to be citizens of Markarth, people you buy meat from, people you sell goods to. It is a chilling revelation that the cannibals are your neighbours. Iola invites Verulus to the altar. He steps forward, his mind clouded by Namira's magic, and lies down ready to sleep. This is the turning point. The quest marker tells you to strike. The Coven watches with bated breath. Instead of drawing your weapon on the priest, you turn and draw it on Iola. This triggers a chaotic, desperate brawl. The entire Coven turns hostile instantly. You are surrounded by cannibals, spellzords, heavy hitters, and Iola herself, who is a potent magic user. Brother Verulus wakes from his stupor in a panic, realizing he is in a room full of people who want to turn him into a stew. He draws his mace shouting, "Arche, protect me!" and joins the fray. Saving Verulus here is not easy. He's squishy, unarmoured, and prone to getting surrounded. But if you position yourself between him and the Coven, unleashing your shouts and swinging your steel with precision, you can cut down the cannibals before they harm him. When the last cultist falls and the silence returns to the cave, Verulus turns to you. He is shaken, terrified by what almost happened, but he is alive. He rewards you with gold and his undying gratitude. Core in-game. Fact. If you save Verulus, he returns to the Hall of the Dead in Markarth. He resumes his duties, tending to the deceased with respect rather than marinating them. More importantly, he becomes a potential source of radiant dialogue that reinforces his survival. He acknowledges that the hall is safe again, thanks to you. By saving him, you effectively dismantle the Namira cult in the Reach. You have wiped out the leadership and the most active members in a single stroke. There is a fascinating, free, obscure lore tidbit connected to Namira that makes this victory even sweeter. In Khajiiti theology, Namira is known as the Great Darkness, a primal force of corruption that exists to spoil the perfect creation. However, Arche, the god Verulus serves, is the enemy of necromancy and the disrespect of the dead. By using a priest of Arche to bait the cult and then saving him, you are essentially facilitating a divine sting operation. You use the corruption's own hunger to lure it into the light, where it can be destroyed by the very thing it sought to consume. It is a poetic justice that fits perfectly within the metaphysical struggle of the Orbis. Of course, the community has a different take. Fan theory or community debate. Many players argue that the good ending is actually a missed opportunity, because the Ring of Namira is the only item in the game that makes survival mode viable. Without the ability to eat corpses, the Dragonborn risks starving in the wilderness. This has led to the pragmatic cannibal debate. Is it evil to eat a bandit if it keeps the saviour of the world alive to defeat Alduin? Does the end justify the meal? Those who choose to save Verulus answer with a resounding no. Morality, they argue, is defined by what you do when you are starving. By refusing the ring, you forfeit a powerful artifact, yes, but you gain something else, a clean conscience and a Markarth that is slightly less horrific. You walk out of Reachcliff Cave with Verulus, stepping back into the sunlight. You haven't just cleared a dungeon, you've saved a soul from the most ignoble end imaginable. The aftermath in Markarth is subtle but significant. The vendor Hogni Redarm, the butcher in the market who was secretly a member of the Coven, is dead, if he was at the feast. The quality of meat in Markarth ironically probably improves, or at least becomes less suspicious. You can walk past the Hall of the Dead knowing that the priest inside is safe, and the dead are resting peacefully, not being prepped for a midnight snack. It's a gritty, violent redemption, fitting for the Reach. You waded into the dark to pull a good man out, but not all darkness is found in caves filled with cannibals. Sometimes the darkness is a deep, submerged pit, filled with chitinous horrors and the tragic remains of a family legacy. We leave the stone beds of Markarth for the icy, treacherous coast of the north, where a lighthouse stands as a beacon of doom rather than safety. The wind howls differently up here on the northern coast between Dawnstar and Winterhold. It's not just the cold, it's the isolation. The sea churns, grey and angry, crashing against jagged rocks that look like the teeth of some submerged titan. Here stands Frostflow Lighthouse, a structure that should promise safety and warmth to sailors navigating the Ghost Sea. Instead, it is the setting for one of the most tragic self-contained stories in Skyrim, and the site of a hidden ending that offers a sliver of peace to a restless soul. When you enter the lighthouse, expecting perhaps a warm fire or a merchant, you're met with silence. Then the smell hits you, or it would if the game had smell-o-vision. The main room is a scene of carnage. A Redguard family, the Ramans, lies dead. The father, Habd, and his wife, Ramati, had bought this lighthouse as a retirement dream. They wanted to escape the noise of the cities, to live a quiet life by the sea. Instead, they found something scratching beneath the cellar door. As you investigate, reading the journals scattered around the blood-stained rooms, the horror unfolds. They heard skittering in the basement. They bought traps. They locked the door. But the scratching got louder. The culprit wasn't Skeevers, but Chorus, the nightmarish insectoid pets of the Fulmer. The family was dragged down, one by one, into the abyss beneath the lighthouse. The quest, Frostflow Abyss, triggers automatically. Your objective is simply to find the source of the murders. You descend into the cellar, breaking through a thin wall into an immense hidden cavern system. It is a Chorus hive, teeming with the clicking, spitting monsters. You fight your way down, deeper and deeper, until you find the nesting ground of the Chorus Reaper, a gargantuan insect that serves as the boss. Inside its belly you find the remains of Habd, specifically his skull. Most players, upon killing the Reaper and looting the chest, think the quest is over. The quest completed text flashes on the screen. They leave the cave, sell the loot, and never return. This is the tragic ending. Habd's dream is dead, his family is gone, and his remains are left to rot in a bug-infested hole. But there is a final step, unmarked, unprompted, and easily missed, that grants the true conclusion. You must take Habd's skull back up through the caves, back into the lighthouse, and climb the ladder to the very top, to the beacon fire itself. Core in-game. Fact. If you activate the lighthouse fire with Habd's skull in your inventory, a unique animation plays. The Dragonborn places the remains into the flames. The fire roars, changing colour slightly, as the ashes are scattered into the sea breeze. This action fulfills the final wish found in Habd's journal. He wanted his bones to burn in the lighthouse fire, so he could look out over the ocean forever. It is his sailor's repose. By performing this simple act of funeral rites, you are granted a permanent active effect called Sailor's Repose. This buff gives your healing spells a 10% boost. It is the game's way of rewarding you for your empathy. You didn't just clear the dungeon, you honoured the dead. You finished the story that Habd couldn't. The emotional weight of this moment is heavy. Obscure lore. Tidbit. The Redguards have a complex relationship with their dead. While they generally abhor necromancy and disturbing the ancestors, the concept of a proper burial or rite of passage is crucial for the soul's journey to the far shores. By burning Habd's remains in the lighthouse he loved, you are effectively acting as a priest of Tuhuaca, ensuring his spirit finds its way home rather than lingering in the dark, cold depths of a farmer hive. It transforms the lighthouse from a slaughterhouse into a mausoleum, a monument to a dream that was cut short but not forgotten. Fan theory or community debate. Players have long discussed the sheer difficulty spike of this quest. The Chorus Reaper and the sheer number of enemies in the Frostflow Abyss are disproportionately tough for the area, leading to the theory that this was intended to be a much higher level zone, or perhaps part of a cut questline involving a farmer invasion of the surface. The tragedy of the Rahman family serves as a grim reminder that in Skyrim, the retirement plan is often just a prelude to a violent death. Some fans even argue that the Sailor's Repose buff is actually the spirit of Habd protecting you. A thank you from beyond the grave for saving him from the indignity of being Chorus digestion. Standing atop the lighthouse, watching the embers fade into the grey sky, you feel a sense of closure that the standard loot and scoot approach lacks. You have cleansed the hive, avenged the family, and granted the father his final wish. The lighthouse beam cuts through the fog, once again a warning to sailors, but now also a vigil for the Rahmans. It is a quiet, sombre victory. A moment of reflection before the chaos of the world pulls you back in. And speaking of chaos, our next journey takes us from the solitary tragedy of a lighthouse to the organised murder of the Dark Brotherhood. But instead of joining the family of assassins, we are going to do the unthinkable. We are going to burn it down. From the lonely, wind-swept heights of the Frostflow Lighthouse, we descend into the murky, morally grey swamps of Yalmarch. If you've spent any time in Skyrim, you know the feeling of dread that comes with receiving a mysterious note. You sleep in a warm bed, perhaps in the Bannered Mare or your own home in Breezeholme, only to wake up in a damp, rotting shack with a bag over your head. The smell of mildew and dried blood fills your nostrils. You are in the abandoned shack, and you have been kidnapped by the leader of the Dark Brotherhood, Astrid. She sits atop a shelf, casual, arrogant, dangling her legs while demanding you commit murder. There are 3 bound captives on the floor, a mercenary, a screeching woman, and a Khajiit. Astrid tells you that one of them has a contract on their head, and you can't leave until you figure out which one it is and execute them. It is a test, a twisted initiation rite designed to break your moral compass and force you into servitude. Most players play along. They interrogate the prisoners, agonize over who deserves it, or simply slaughter all 3 to be safe. They want the cool armor. They want Shadowmere, the demon horse with glowing red eyes. They want to be the listener. But there is another path, a path of righteous indignation that constitutes one of the most definitive good endings in the entire game. Instead of drawing your blade on the helpless captives, you turn your camera and your weapon toward Astrid. It is a moment of pure, unscripted brilliance that the game actually accounts for. You can attack her. She isn't an essential NPC in this specific cell. She's just an assassin who made the fatal mistake of kidnapping a demigod who shouts dragons out of the sky. When you strike her, she doesn't laugh it off. She gasps, "Well done," as she dies, perhaps realizing too late that she bit off more than she could chew. The moment she falls, the quest with friends like these fails. Immediately, a new objective appears: destroy the Dark Brotherhood. This is the hidden route for the lawful good, the Paladin, or simply the Dragonborn who is tired of being pushed around by leather-clad edgelords. You loot her body, taking the Blade of his Woe, because waste not, want not, and unlock the shack door. You are free, but the job isn't done. You travel to Dragonbridge to report your deed to Commander Maro of the Penitus Oculatus. Core in-game fact. The Penitus Oculatus are the Emperor's personal security force, the organisation that replaced the Blades after the Great War. When you tell Maro you killed the leader of the Dark Brotherhood, he is ecstatic. He gives you the password to the sanctuary door, "Silence, my brother," and authorises a full raid. You're no longer an initiate, you are an executioner. You march on the Falkreath Sanctuary not to join the family but to evict them. Permanently. The raid on the Sanctuary is a brutal, chaotic gauntlet. You are fighting the entire roster of the Brotherhood at once. Arnbjorn, the werewolf husband of Astrid, charges you with a battle axe. Visara, the Shadow Scale, strikes from the shadows. Festus Krex throws destruction magic like confetti. It is a boss rush of unique NPCs. Clearing the Sanctuary feels fundamentally different from any other dungeon crawl. These aren't nameless bandits. These are characters with personalities, backstories, and quirks you might have gotten to know in another life. But here, they are just murderers standing in the way of a safer Skyrim. By wiping them out, you achieve a massive geopolitical good ending. Consider the alternative. If you join them, you assassinate the Emperor of Tamriel, Titus Mede II. You destabilise the Empire right when it needs unity to face the Thalmor. You murder a bride at her wedding in solitude. You frame and kill the gourmet chef, the son of a commander, and countless others. By destroying the Brotherhood, you prevent all of this. The Emperor. Lives. The wedding proceeds, presumably. The gourmet keeps cooking. You have single-handedly averted a high-level political assassination plot that would have plunged the realm into further chaos. This route also sheds light on an obscure lore tidbit regarding the decline of the Dark Brotherhood. By the Fourth Era, the Brotherhood in Skyrim has abandoned the tenets. They no longer listen to the Night Mother. They are essentially just a glorified mercenary guild using the aesthetics of a death cult. Astrid admits this herself. She rejects the old ways. Therefore, by destroying this specific sanctuary, you aren't even really destroying the true Dark Brotherhood of old lore. You are destroying a heretical splinter cell that lost its connection to Sithis. In a strange, twisted way, a devout follower of the Void might even approve of your actions. You are pruning the rot. However, choosing this path is a heavy sacrifice for the player. Fan theory or community debate. The Destroy the Dark Brotherhood quest is often criticised for being too short and unrewarding compared to the full faction questline. You miss out on Shadowmere, the summonable spectral assassin Lucian LeChance, and the immense gold reward at the end of the Emperor's assassination. The community often debates whether the good ending is worth the boring gameplay experience. Is it better to be a rich murderer or a poor hero? The debate touches on the core of role-playing. Are you making choices based on what your character would do or based on the loot table? Those who defend the Penitus Oculatus route argue that the moral weight outweighs the loot. There is a profound satisfaction in walking into that sanctuary and ending the reign of terror. When you return to Commander Maro, he pays you 3,000 gold. It's a pittance compared to the 20,000 gold you get for killing the Emperor, but it's clean money. You didn't have to kill a mentally ill beggar, Nafi, or a miner, Betild, to get it. Furthermore, this path highlights the often overlooked role of the Penitus Oculatus. They are usually portrayed as incompetent antagonists in the Brotherhood storyline, easily duped and slaughtered. But in this timeline, they are competent, grateful, and effective. You give them a win. You validate their existence as the protectors of the Emperor. It's a rare moment where the cops of the setting actually get to catch the bad guys, with your help. There is also a subtle, grim humour in using the Brotherhood's own password against them. Standing at the black door uttering "Silence, my brother," and then entering with a drawn sword is a cinematic moment of irony. You are bringing the silence of the grave, just not the one they expected. When the dust settles and the sanctuary is empty, save for the corpses of the assassins, you can look around the room. You see the trophies of their past kills, the remnants of their dark rituals, and you know that no more contracts will be issued from this hole in the ground. You have cauterized the wound. It's a violent, definitive end to a violent group, but sometimes the beast needs to be put down. And speaking of beasts, our next journey takes us from the metaphorical monsters of the Brotherhood to a literal monster who is trying desperately to control his own nature. We leave the shadows of the sanctuary for the damp, misty grottos of Falkreath, where a man sits behind bars waiting for a hunt to begin. Leaving the smoking ruins of the Dark Brotherhood sanctuary behind, we travel south to the pine-choked forests of Falkreath. It is a hold defined by its relationship with the dead, home to the largest graveyard in Skyrim. The air here is perpetually damp, the fog clinging to the trees like a shroud. But in the local jail, a different kind of tragedy sits behind bars. A tragedy of fur, claws, and a cursed piece of jewellery that refuses to stay on a finger. You arrive in Falkreath to find a funeral in progress. A little girl has been torn apart. The grieving parents point you toward the jail, where Sinding, a mesmerisingly calm Northman, awaits his fate. He admits to the killing but pleads a lack of intent. He's wearing the cursed ring of Hircine, an artifact that transforms the wearer into a werewolf at random, uncontrollable intervals. He's a victim of a Daedric prank gone wrong. He hands you the ring, tasking you with appeasing the Daedric prince of the hunt, Hircine, so the curse can be lifted. The quest, ill met by moonlight, is a masterclass in atmosphere. Hircine, appearing as a spectral white stag, commands you to go to Bloated Man's grotto and kill Sinding. Tear the skin from his body, the prince demands. It is brutal, primitive, and very Hircine. When you arrive at the grotto, the blood moon hangs low in the sky, bathing the cavern in a sickly red light. The hunt is already underway. A group of seasoned hunters has cornered Sinding. Here, the game expects a simple choice. Join the hunters and kill Sinding for the Saviour's hide, light armour, or join Sinding and kill the hunters for the Ring of Hircine, which grants unlimited werewolf transformations. But the good ending, the hidden double cross, is the path where you defy the binary logic of the quest to pull off the ultimate heist against a Daedric prince. First, you choose empathy. You enter the grotto and find Sinding perched on a high rock, terrified and cornered. He asks for your help. You agree. This is the moral high ground. The hunters in this cave are not noble protectors of the peace. They are glory seekers looking for a trophy. You and Sinding become a two-man, one man, one wolf, army. You tear through the hunters. Sinding is an absolute powerhouse in this fight, flinging enemies across the cavern with the force of a runaway cart. When the last hunter falls, Sinding thanks you. He promises to stay in the grotto, far away from civilization, ensuring he never hurts anyone again. It is a moment of genuine redemption. He accepts his exile to protect the innocent. You have saved a man from execution and given him a second chance at a peaceful, albeit lonely life. However, here is where the double cross comes into play, utilising a notorious quirk in the game's scripting to maximise the good outcome for your inventory. Core in-game fact: after Sinding thanks you, and the quest marks kill the hunters as complete, you can exit the cave. Outside, the spectral aspect of Hircine will appear and congratulate you for turning the hunt upside down. He's impressed by your loyalty to your pack, Sinding. He rewards you by uncursing the Ring of Hircine. You now have the best werewolf artifact in the game. Most players stop here. But if you turn right back around and re-enter the cave, Sinding is still there. The script for the kill Sinding objective is technically still active in the background mechanics. If you then kill Sinding, I know, we just talked about redemption, bear with me. Hircine's aspect will appear inside the cave as well. He will congratulate you again for skinning the prey and reward you with the Saviour's hide. Wait, isn't this the bad ending? Not necessarily. Let's look at the obscure lore tidbits surrounding Hircine's sphere. Hircine is not evil in the mortal sense. He is the spirit of the test. He respects strength, cunning, and the ability to survive. By manipulating the parameters of the hunt to claim both rewards, you have effectively outhunted the god of the hunt. You displayed the cunning of the fox and the strength of the bear. You saved Sinding's soul from the immediate terrified death at the hands of the mob, gave him a warrior's death at the hands of a peer, you, and stripped the prince of 2 artifacts instead of 1. However, for the pure good ending where Sinding lives, you simply skip the re-entry step. You take the ring and walk away. Sinding remains in Bloated Man's grotto. If you return days later, he is still there, pacing peacefully, eating deer, and not murdering children. This is the only way to ensure the safety of the realm without executing a man for a crime he committed under magical duress. Fan theory or community debate. The Sinding dilemma is often cited as one of the best examples of Daedric morality. Fans argue that Hircine knew you would betray one side or the other, and that the double-cross exploit is actually the most canon-accurate path for a Dragonborn. You're a prisoner, a hero bound by prophecy, and your ability to bend the world and the game code is part of your power. Hircine doesn't get mad that you tricked him. He's likely amused. You played the game better than he did. The moral weight of sparing Sinding, even if you don't kill him for the second reward, is significant. Sinding is one of the few NPCs who shows genuine remorse. He didn't want the power, he wanted to control it. By giving him the grotto, you give him a sanctuary. You create a guardian of the wild, a beast who understands the cost of blood. And let's be honest, the Saviour's hide looks like something you'd find in a discount costume bin, while the uncursed Ring of Hircine is a tool of immense utility. Choosing the ring is the good ending not just for Sinding, but for your own sanity as a werewolf player. No more random transformations in the middle of a shop transaction in solitude. As you leave the grotto, the red moon fading and the natural night sky returning, you feel the weight of the ring in your pocket. You defied the will of the hunters, you spat in the face of fate, and you walked away with the favour of a god. The woods of Falkreath are silent again, save for the distant howl of a wolf who is finally free. But not everyone can be saved by a sword and a clever exploit. Sometimes the person you need to save is unarmed, untrained, and stuck in the middle of a high-stakes diplomatic party where one wrong move means death. We trade our fur armour for party clothes and head north to the icy cliffs of Harfingar, where the Thalmor are hosting a soiree, and our inside man is sweating bullets. From the moonlit forests of Falkreath, we trade our fur armour for something a bit more itchy. We are heading to the icy cliffs of Harfingar, specifically the Thalmor embassy, for the quest Diplomatic Immunity. This is the mission that feels most like a spy thriller, a tuxedo or party clothes, infiltration into the heart of the enemy stronghold. The champagne is flowing, the hors d'oeuvres are stale, and the hostesses are high elves with a superiority complex that could crush a giant. Your contact on the inside is a nervous wood elf named Malborn. He is not a warrior, he's not a mage, he's a waiter with a grudge and a serving tray. His job is to smuggle your gear into the embassy kitchen so you can retrieve it after creating a distraction at the party. In the standard playthrough, Malborn is a disposable asset. He opens the door, you vanish into the corridors and you never see him again. Or worse, you find his corpse later in the dungeon, a victim of the Thalmor guards, who realised the waiter was the mole. But there is a good ending where Malborn walks out of that embassy alive, and achieving it requires the Dragonborn to act less like a tank and more like a panicked bodyguard. The crisis point comes after you have gathered the intelligence on the dragons. You descend into the embassy's dungeon, the torture chamber. Here, you find the thief Etienne Ranis being interrogated. But as you're freeing him, the door at the top of the stairs bursts open. 2 Thalmor guards march in, escorting Malborn. They have found him out. They know he is the traitor, and because Malborn has the combat statistics of a damp paper towel and is wearing 0 armour, he will die in roughly 2 hits. To save him, you must abandon all caution. You cannot stealth archer your way through this comfortably. You have to sprint up those stairs, drawing aggro immediately. You need to be a whirlwind of violence, shouting, bashing and flinging spells to ensure the guards focus on you and not the elf. It is a frantic, messy skirmish in a confined space. If you have healing hands or courage spells, now is the time to spam them on Malborn, who will often try to punch a heavily armoured soldier in the face because his AI has more bravery than brains. Once the guards are dead, the ordeal isn't over. You have to escort him and Etienne through the trapdoor into the reeking cave. And what is waiting in the reeking cave? A frost troll. The frost troll in the escape tunnel is the Malborn killer. Most players just run past it to the exit, eager to finish the quest. If you do that, the troll will kill Malborn as he tries to follow you. To get the good ending, you must kill the troll before it can take a swipe at your unarmoured friend. Once you exit the cave to the fresh air of Skyrim, Malborn will run off into the snow. If he survives, he doesn't just despawn. He travels all the way to Windhelm, where he takes refuge in the new Nissus Corner Club. Later, he moves on to escape into Morrowind. You can actually encounter him in the Grey Quarter, where he thanks you for saving his life, albeit grumpily, complaining about the cold and the Nords. This survival route adds a layer of depth to the Thalmor conflict. Obscure lore. Tidbit. Malborn isn't helping you for money. He reveals that the Thalmor purged his family in Valenwood. The Dominion, often portrayed as a monolithic evil empire, actually has internal dissent. The Wood Elves, Bosmer, are subject to strict purges by their high elf overlords if they don't toe the line. Malborn represents the resistance of the common Mer. By saving him, you aren't just saving a waiter, you're saving a survivor of a genocide who risked everything for a shot at revenge. The community has a love-hate relationship with Malborn. He's often cited as one of the worst escort NPCs because of his aggression. Why does the unarmoured waiter try to box with the Thalmor wizard? Many fans theorise that Delphine, the Grandmaster of the Blades, intentionally sent an expendable amateur because she didn't want to risk a real agent. This paints Delphine in an even worse light, if that's possible, and makes your protection of Malborn an act of defiance against her callousness. You refuse to treat him as a pawn. There is a unique satisfaction in seeing Malborn sitting at the bar in Windhelm later in the game. He's alive. He escaped the embassy, the guards, the troll, and the political machinations of the Blades. He is free to start a new life in Morrowind, far away from the Thalmor. It's a small victory in the grand scheme of the Dragon Crisis, but for that one wood elf, it means the entire world. As we watch Malborn disappear into the snowy mists of the east, our own journey takes us to a different kind of peak. We leave the political intrigue of the Thalmor for the mystical star-touched heights of the Shrine of Azura. Here, we face a choice not about saving a body, but about the purity of a soul and the nature of a very iconic star. From the bitter cold of the Windhelm docks, where our wood elf friend Malborn likely caught the first boat to Raven Rock, we turn our gaze upward. Looming high above the snowy peaks of Winterhold stands a monument that is impossible to miss, the Shrine of Azura. The colossal statue of the Daedric Prince of Dusk and Dawn holds a star and a moon, staring out across the sea of ghosts with an expression that is equal parts benevolence and possessiveness. It is here that we encounter a choice that splits the community right down the middle. Do you prioritise infinite magical power, or do you prioritise the sanctity of the soul? The quest, the Black Star, begins innocently enough. You approach the shrine and are greeted by Aranea Einith, the last remaining priestess. She has been waiting for you, claiming Azura has granted her a vision of your arrival. She sends you to find an elven mage who can locate Azura's stolen artifact, the Star. This leads you to the Frozen Hearth Inn in Winterhold and a disgruntled Altmer wizard named Nelacar. Nelacar explains the dark history. His former master, Malin Varen, was obsessed with immortality. He tried to modify the Star of Azura, a Daedric artifact designed to hold only white souls, creatures, so it could hold black souls, humans and elves. He wanted to put his own soul inside it to live forever. He succeeded, sort of. The Star is now broken, corrupted, and Malin's soul is trapped inside, slowly going mad as he consumes other souls to sustain himself. You trek to Ilianalta's Deep, a sunken Imperial fort that is now damp, mossy, and crawling with necromancers. You retrieve the broken Azura's star. Now, the fork in the road appears. Nelacar wants you to bring the star to him so he can finish Malin's work, severing it from Azura entirely and turning it into the Black Star. Aranea and Azura herself want you to bring it back to the shrine to be cleansed. The overwhelming majority of players choose Nelacar. Why? Because the Black Star is mechanically superior. It can trap human souls, which are always grand level, making enchanting trivially easy. You can kill a bandit, charge the star, recharge your weapon, and repeat. It is a battery of infinite death. But the good ending, the hidden moral victory, is found in returning the star to Azura. When you bring the artifact back to Aranea, Azura speaks to you. She is imperious, yes, but she offers you a chance to purify the corruption. She transports you inside the star itself. This is one of the most visually distinct environments in the game, a crystalline void, suspended in a realm of pure white light and jagged shards. You are walking inside a soul gem. There, you fight Malin Varen and his Dremora guardians. You don't just evict him, you destroy his twisted spirit, ending his cycle of vampiric soul consumption. By cleansing the artifact, you receive Azura's star, the White Star. It functions as a reusable Grand Soul gem, but it can only trap non-humanoid souls. While this seems like a downgrade, it comes with a massive role-playing benefit. Aranea Einith becomes a follower. If you side with Nelacar, Aranea is heartbroken. She realizes her years of devotion were meaningless, and she remains alone at the shrine, a broken woman. If you side with Azura, she pledges her service to you. She's an incredibly powerful destruction mage, one of the few followers who can summon Paarthurnax and dual-cast spells effectively. You gain a loyal, powerful ally instead of just a tool. The good ending here is about rejecting the industrialization of the human soul. Obscure lore, tidbit. In the lore of the Elder Scrolls, black soul gems are inherently linked to the Necromancer's moon, the god form of Mannimarco, the king of worms. Using them is considered a necromantic act. When you trap a human soul in a black soul gem, or the Black Star, and use it for enchanting, the soul is consumed. But where does the remnant go? It is heavily implied, especially after the Dawnguard DLC, that souls trapped in black gems are sent to the Soul Cairn, a nightmare realm ruled by the Ideal Masters. There, they wander eternally in hunger and misery. So, if you choose the Black Star for the sake of convenience, you're potentially condemning every bandit, soldier, and unfortunate Nazim you kill to an eternity of torment in the Soul Cairn. You become a funnel for the Ideal Masters, feeding them souls in exchange for a slightly sharper sword. By choosing the White Star, you reject this machinery of suffering. You stick to trapping mammoths and giants, creatures whose souls, according to Adric lore, flow back to the Dreamsleave to be recycled, rather than being damned to a purple purgatory. The community often argues that Azura is not good, and that keeping the star from her is an act of rebellion against Daedric influence. Azura is petty, jealous, and vain. Nelacar represents scientific progress, a mortal, thumbing his nose at the gods. However, the counter-argument is that Nelacar is just as dangerous. He's willing to dabble in soul manipulation that drove his master insane. The good ending isn't about worshipping Azura, it's about cleaning up a mess. Malin Varen was a cancer on the artifact, a human soul refusing to pass on. By purging him, you restore the natural order of life and death. There is also a tactile satisfaction to the White Star route. Standing at the foot of the shrine after the battle, the wind whipping around you, Azura's voice booming her approval, feels like a heroic conclusion. You didn't skulk in a tavern room with a bitter wizard. You ascended to the heavens and cleansed a divine object. You have a shiny, pure star in your pocket, and a new mage friend who actually respects you. Plus, let's be honest, hunting mammoths for souls is more sporting than soul-trapping a level 1 bandit. It keeps you honest. It keeps you from becoming a lazy enchanter who views human beings as nothing more than walking batteries. In a world where you're already a thief, an assassin, and a werewolf, drawing the line at eternal damnation of human souls is probably a healthy boundary to set. As we leave the shrine, with Aranea potentially in tow, we descend from the mountains back into the political fray. We leave the metaphysical questions of the soul for the gritty reality of a civil war. Our next stop is a fortress, a prison, and a family dispute that threatens to tear a clan apart. We are going to rescue a son, but we aren't going to storm the gates. We are going to use the one weapon stronger than a Daedric sword, a sternly worded letter. From the dizzying, star-touched heights of Azura's shrine, we descend back to the heartland of Skyrim, to the rolling plains of Whiterun, where the grass blows in golden waves and the politics are as prickly as a thistle. We return to the city of Whiterun, specifically the market district, where an old woman named Fralia Greymane sells jewellery and worries about her missing son. This is the setup for Missing in Action, a quest that encapsulates the bitterness of the Civil War. The Greymanes support the Stormcloaks, the Battleborn support the Empire. They used to be friends, now they cross the street to avoid each other. Fralia believes her son Thorald is alive, despite the Battleborns claiming he died in the war. She's right, of course. A bit of breaking and entering into the Battleborn house, don't worry, it's for a good cause, reveals a ledger proving that the Battleborn sold Thorald out to the Thalmor. He is being held at Northwatch Keep, a bleak coastal fortress, used by the Dominion as a blacksite prison. Normally this is where the Dragonborn sighs, checks their potion inventory, and prepares for a siege. The standard resolution to this quest is a full frontal assault. You, and potentially a squad of Greymane warriors, storm Northwatch Keep. You slaughter the exterior guards, fight your way through the interior, kill the interrogator, and drag Thorald out over a pile of high elf corpses. It is heroic, yes, but it is also an act of war. Technically, by attacking Northwatch, you are breaking the White Gold Concordat and sparking an international incident. But there is a good ending here, a path of diplomacy and bureaucracy that allows you to walk Thorald out of that prison without drawing your weapon, leaving the Thalmor guards alive but absolutely furious. This is the Imperial pardon route, a solution so elegant it feels like a cheat code, yet it is fully voiced and integrated into the game's files. To unlock this path, you cannot be a Stormcloak. You must align yourself with the Imperial Legion. Furthermore, you need to have progressed enough in the Legion questline to have the ear of General Tullius in Solitude. Instead of marching on Northwatch with a sword, you march into Castle Dower. You speak to General Tullius. There is a specific dialogue option that appears. I need a prisoner released from Northwatch Keep. Tullius is initially resistant. He knows that the Thalmor are touchy about their prisoners. He grumbles about the headaches this will cause him. But because you are his soldier, his legate in training, he relents. He writes an official Imperial decree demanding the release of Thorald Greymane into your custody. He hands you the paper. It is just a piece of paper, but in this moment, it is more powerful than a Daedric warhammer. You travel to Northwatch Keep. The atmosphere here is oppressive, the grey sea crashing against the cliffs, the black stone of the fortress looming over the coast. The Thalmor guards stop you at the gate, hands on their hilts, sneering about dog this and heretic that. Usually this is where the fireball flies. Instead, you hand the guard the letter. Core in-game fact. The dialogue interaction here is unique. The guard reads the letter, his face twisting in frustration. He questions the order, muttering about Imperial interference, but he cannot defy a direct order from the military governor of Skyrim without causing a diplomatic crisis. He grinds his teeth and says, "Fine, take him, but get out of my sight." He unlocks the gate, he unlocks the dungeon. You walk past the cells, past the torture racks, and the guards just watch you. They can't touch you. You're protected by the red tape of the Empire. You find Thorald chained to the wall. He's confused, expecting a rescue party, not a lawyer. You unchain him, and together you walk out the front door. The Thalmor glare at you, weapons sheathed, impotent in the face of bureaucracy. This solution is the good ending because it proves that the system can still work, even in a broken world. You save a Stormcloak sympathizer using Imperial authority. It bridges the divide between the factions. You show the Greymanes that the Empire isn't just a puppet of the Thalmor. It still has the power to protect its citizens, even the rebellious ones. It saves the lives of Avelstein Greymane and his friends, who would otherwise likely die in the assault on the keep if you brought them along. However, this quest is also famous for a meta-reason: fan theory or community debate. For years, this peaceful solution was bugged in the vanilla game. The dialogue option with Tullius would often fail to appear, or the Thalmor guard would attack you anyway even after reading the letter. This led to a widespread community belief that Bethesda cut the content because they wanted to force a fight. Fans argued that the Imperial pardon was the intended canon path for Imperial players, but time constraints left it broken. It became a staple fix in the unofficial Skyrim patch. Now, with mods or luck, players can experience it as intended, fueling the debate that the Dragonborn is meant to be a diplomat as much as a warrior. There is an obscure lore tidbit regarding Northwatch Keep itself that makes this victory even sweeter. The keep is technically considered sovereign dominion territory under the Concordat. This means that when you are inside the walls, you're not in Skyrim, you're effectively in the Aldmeri Dominion. By forcing them to release a prisoner based on an Imperial order, Tullius is actually flexing a rare bit of muscle, asserting that Imperial law still holds sway even over Dominion operations within the province. It is a subtle political power play that you get to execute personally. Walking Thorold away from the keep, leaving the Thalmor fuming at the gate, offers a different kind of adrenaline. It's the thrill of outsmarting the enemy rather than overpowering them. You didn't give them the satisfaction of a fight, you didn't give them a reason to martyr themselves, you just took their prize and left. Thorold thanks you. Fleeing to join the Stormcloaks in Windhelm, you return to Fralia in Whiterun. She is overjoyed. The Greymane family is whole again, mostly, and you did it without shedding a drop of blood. It is a rare moment of civility in a uncivil war. But as the sun sets over the tundra and the political squabbles of men fade into the background, we must turn our attention to more primal forces. Sometimes the threat isn't a high elf with a complex, it's a Daedric prince with a dog. We leave the Courts of Solitude for a road near Falkreath, where a stray canine is looking for a master, and a deal is about to be struck that requires a very sharp axe. Leaving the political chessboards of Solitude behind, we find ourselves back on the road, kicking pebbles and dodging rain showers on the outskirts of Falkreath. This hold really can't catch a break. First werewolves, now stray dogs with vocabulary skills. We are looking into A Daedra's Best Friend, a quest that starts with a mundane request from a blacksmith named Lod, who wants a dog for companionship, and ends with you standing in a damp cave debating whether to murder a talking canine with an axe that looks like it was designed by a heavy metal album artist. The stray you find is Barbas, and Barbas is not a normal dog. He is an Irish wolfhound who speaks with a thick, inexplicably Brooklyn-esque accent. He is the companion of Clavicus Vile, the Daedric prince of bargains and wishes. Barbas has been kicked out of the house, so to speak, because Vile is tired of the dog nagging him. Barbas wants you to reunite them. The journey takes you to Hamer's Shame, a cavern, infested with vampires who worship Vile. This is fitting, as Clavicus Vile is the patron of those who want power without working for it, a trait many vampires share. You carve your way through the bloodsuckers until you reach the shrine, a statue of a small, impish man with a large dog. Vile speaks to you, but he's not exactly thrilled to see Barbas. He offers you a deal: retrieve the rueful axe from another dungeon, and he will grant your wish. So, off you go to Remrock Burrow to fetch the axe. You kill a wizard, grab the weapon, and return to the shrine. Here is the crux of the dilemma. Clavicus Vile looks at the axe, looks at the dog, and makes a proposal. You want the axe? It's yours. All you have to do is kill Barbas. The evil ending is straightforward. You swing the axe. Barbas dies. He's a Daedra, so he just banishes, but it's still rude. You keep the rueful axe. Vile laughs at you. The good ending is the firm refusal to play Vile's game. You tell the Prince of Bargains no. You insist that he take the dog back. Vile groans, complains, but ultimately agrees. He snaps his fingers, Barbas disappears into the statue to rejoin his master, and in return, you are given the mask of Clavicus Vile. Why is this the good ending? Let's look at the mechanics first. Core in-game fact. The rueful axe is, frankly, a terrible weapon. It is the slowest swinging battle axe in the game. Its enchantment deals stamina damage, which is negligible against most enemies. It is a trick reward, a shiny, menacing-looking object that is practically useless. This is classic Clavicus Vile. He grants your wish for a weapon, but gives you one that will probably get you killed. In stark contrast, the Mask of Clavicus Vile is one of the best helmets in the game. It provides a massive boost to speech, lower prices at vendors, and increased magicka regeneration. It is a heavy armour helm that looks like a samurai mask made of ebony. By choosing the mask, you not only save the dog, you get the superior loot. You win the bargain. But the lore implications go much deeper. Obscure lore tidbit. Barbas is not just a pet. In Daedric cosmology, Barbas is often described as the superego to Clavicus Vile's id. Vile is a child god, impulsive, petulant and dangerous. He wants chaos. He wants to screw people over for fun. Barbas is the grounding force. He is the voice of reason that prevents Vile from accidentally destroying his own realm or getting into trouble with the other princes. By reuniting them, you are essentially putting the brakes on a chaotic deity. You're returning the conscience to the sociopath. If you kill Barbas, you leave Clavicus Vile unchecked. Without Barbas to whisper caution in his ear, Vile's influence on Nirn could become far more destructive. Barbas explicitly warns you about this. He tells you that without him, Vile is liable to make a mess of things. So, saving the dog isn't just about animal welfare. It's about cosmic stability. You're practically babysitting a god. The community has long held a special place for this quest. Fan theory or community debate. There is a persistent theory that Barbas is actually the true power behind the throne. Clavicus Vile is depicted as small and impish, while Barbas is often shown as larger or equal in the iconography. Some lore scholars argue that Barbas is the intelligent half of the sphere, while Vile is just the face. By refusing to kill Barbas, you are siding with the entity that actually knows what's going on. This is supported by the fact that Barbas is invincible during the quest. You can use him as a tank for the entire game if you just never finish the quest. He's an unkillable barking distraction machine. However, the good ending requires you to give up that invincible follower. This is the test. Are you willing to lose your immortal dog tank to do the right thing? Are you willing to trust that the mask is worth it? The interaction with Vile at the end is pure comedy. He is so disappointed that you won't kill the dog. "You're no fun," he pouts. It highlights the childish nature of the Daedra. He wanted a blood sacrifice just to see if you'd do it. By refusing, you deny him the satisfaction of corrupting you. You walk out of Hima's shame not as a pawn but as a negotiator who dictated terms to a prince. Also, let's consider the aesthetic. The mask of Clavicus Vile is stylish. It hides your face, sure, but it commands respect. Walking into a shop in solitude wearing the face of a god and demanding a discount feels powerful. Walking in with a slow, rusty axe that kills puppies feels sad. The good ending of A Daedra's Best Friend is a lesson in value. Vile tries to sell you a lemon, the rueful axe. He tries to trick you into thinking violence is the only currency. But by sticking to your guns, or your conversation wheel, you prove that the smartest warrior is the one who knows when to sheath the sword. You leave the cave and the statue is whole again. The dog is gone, presumably nagging Vile about his posture or his spending habits in oblivion. The vampires are dead. You have a cool hat. It's a win-win-win. And really, who could bring themselves to kill Barbas? Sure, he barks incessantly. Sure, he pushes you off cliffs by nudging you from behind. Sure, he ruins your stealth by charging ahead. Okay, maybe he's annoying, but he's our annoying Daedric dog, and in the lonely wilds of Skyrim, even a talking dog is better company than the silence of the grave. But speaking of silence and graves, our next journey takes us to a place where silence is enforced by stone walls and silver bars. We're going to prison again, but this time we aren't getting a pardon. We're getting a shiv, and we are starting a revolution. We leave Falkreath for the Reach, where the silver flows like water, and the king wears rags. We return to the stone city of Markarth, a place that seems determined to win the award for most corrupt municipality in Tamriel year after year. If you thought the cannibals were the worst thing about this town, you clearly haven't met the landlords. We are diving into the conclusion of the Forsworn conspiracy, a narrative arc that sees the Dragonborn stripped of their weapons, armour and dignity and thrown into Cidhna Mine, the most inescapable prison in Skyrim. You end up here because you poked your nose where it didn't belong. You investigated the murders, you uncovered the link between the Forsworn terrorists and the ruling Silverblood family, and for your trouble, you were framed for murder. The guards, paid off by Thonar Silverblood, toss you into the mine to dig silver until you drop. It is a stark, claustrophobic shift in gameplay. Suddenly your Daedric armour is gone. Your potions are gone. You're left with a pickaxe and a pair of ragged trousers surrounded by orc guards who would happily beat you to death for sneezing too loudly. Inside the mine, you meet the king in rags, Madonak. He is the leader of the Forsworn Rebellion, a man who ruled Markarth for 2 years before Ulfric Stormcloak kicked him out. He has been running his insurgency from inside his cell, ordering hits on the outside while sipping weak tea on the inside. Here, the game offers you a choice. You can play the Executioner, kill Madanach in his cell, a distinct shiv him in the dark approach, loot his key, and escape alone. This earns you a pardon from Thonar Silverblood and the Silverblood family ring. It returns the status quo. Thonar keeps his power, the mine keeps its slaves, and you get a piece of jewellery that helps with smithing. But the good ending, the revolutionary route, is to listen to Madanach. It requires you to swallow your pride, accept that the Nords might be the bad guys in this specific zip code, and join the jailbreak. Why is this the good ending? Because Markarth is rotting from the head down. Thonar Silverblood essentially owns the city, the guards, and the Jarl. He uses Cidhna Mine not just as a prison, but as a private slave labour camp to fuel his wealth. He has been manipulating the Forsworn for years to eliminate his political rivals. By killing Madanach, you are doing Thonar's dirty work. You are tying up a loose end for a corrupt oligarch. By siding with Madanach, you break the wheel. You perform tasks for the other prisoners to earn their trust. Getting a shiv, listening to the tragic story of Braeg, who lost his daughter to Nord cruelty. You realise these aren't just faceless monsters. They are a displaced people, the native Reachmen, who have been brutalised by Nord occupiers. When the time comes, Madanach rallies the prisoners. You escape through the Dwemer ruins beneath the mine. Then comes the payoff. Before you exit into the city, Madanach returns your confiscated gear, but he also gives you the Armour of the Old Gods, a unique set of Forsworn gear that boosts destruction magic, sneaking and bow damage. It's a powerful set for a hybrid build. More importantly, when you burst out of the mine into the streets of Markarth, it isn't a stealth mission, it is a riot. Madanach and his Forsworn, now fully armed, clash with the Markarth City Guard and Thonar Silverblood himself. It is total chaos. Lightning bolts fly, arrows whistle, and Thonar is usually cut down in the streets by the very dogs he thought he controlled. This route essentially decapitates the corrupt leadership of the Reach. Thonar dies. Scripted or not, he rarely survives the brawl. The Silverblood grip on the city is shattered. Madanach and his crew escape into the hills. The long-term benefits of this choice are surprisingly wholesome. If you help Madanach escape, the Forsworn faction at Druidak Redoubt, a massive cave fortification north of the city, becomes friendly to you. This is the only instance in the entire game where a dungeon full of hostile NPCs becomes a safe haven. You can walk in, sleep in their beds, and trade with them. The game mechanics acknowledge your alliance. You are literally a friend of the Reach. This leads to a fascinating bit of cultural context, often missed by players who view Forsworn simply as bandits in fur bikinis. The Reachmen worship the old gods, a syncretic pantheon that predates the Imperial divines. They view the Nords as imperialist invaders who stole their land. While their methods, Hagravens, Briarhearts, human sacrifice, are terrifying, their grievance is legitimate. They are fighting an asymmetric war for their homeland. By freeing Madanach, you are validating their struggle against colonial oppression. You are the one outsider who listened. Of course, this ending is controversial. The Markarth justice debate is a staple of Skyrim forums. Detractors point out that Madanach is a terrorist who ordered the deaths of innocent civilians in the market. He is not a good man. He is a ruthless warlord. Is letting him loose to terrorise the countryside really a good ending? Proponents argue that in the context of the Reach, there are no good guys, only victims. The Nords commit genocide, the Reachmen commit terrorism, but the Silverbloods are the architects of the misery for both sides. Destroying the Silverblood power structure is the lesser of two evils. Plus, from a role-playing perspective, seeing the corrupt guards who framed you get slaughtered by a werewolf and a mage is incredibly cathartic. There is a visceral satisfaction to the escape sequence. You emerge from the dark, dusty ruins into the bright sunlight of Markarth, weapons drawn. For the first time in the game, the guards, who usually bully you with lines like, "Let me guess, someone stole your sweet roll," are terrified. They are facing a prison riot led by a legendary king. You aren't the victim anymore, you are the instrument of karma. When the dust settles and Madanach vanishes into the wilderness, Markarth feels different. The oppression is lifted, even if just slightly. You can walk the stone streets knowing that the man who signed your arrest warrant is dead in the gutter. You wear the armour of the old gods as a badge of honour, a symbol that you survived the worst the city could throw at you. And, on a practical note, having a safe house at Druidak Redoubt is excellent for survival mode players. It's a warm cave with friendly faces in a region where everything else wants to kill you. We leave the blood-stained stone of Markarth behind, travelling east to the frozen, wind-battered streets of Windhelm. Here, the danger isn't a political conspiracy, but a serial killer stalking the snowy alleys. We're about to play detective, but this time, we need to be faster than the quest marker. We're going to save a life that the game usually expects you to lose. From the sun-drenched, riotous success of the Markarth prison break, we travel east into the biting teeth of the wind. We arrive in Windhelm, the oldest human city in Skyrim, the seat of the Stormcloak Rebellion, and a place where the snow is piled high enough to bury a secret or a body. The atmosphere here is thick with tension, not just from the Civil War, but from a fear that stalks the streets after dark. We are entering the narrative of Blood on the Ice, a quest that plays out like a Nordic noir detective thriller, complete with incompetent local law enforcement and a killer with a gruesome signature. You likely stumble into this tragedy by accident. You enter the graveyard at night and find a crowd gathered around the body of Susanna the Wicked, a waitress from Candlehearth Hall. She has been brutalised. The guards are baffled. The witnesses are terrified. The Jarl's steward, your life, effectively deputises you because the city guard is too busy complaining about their needs to investigate a serial killer. The investigation leads you to Jerem, an abandoned manor filled with clues that scream villain lair. You find a butcher's altar, strange pamphlets about necromancy, and a hidden amulet. All signs point to the court wizard, Wunferth the Unliving. He's creepy, he lives in a tower, and his name is the Unliving. It seems like an open and shut case. This is the trap. The standard tragic path sees you reporting Wunferth to Yorleaf. The wizard is arrested, shouting his innocence. You get a pat on the back. But days later, while you're out adventuring, another body appears in the streets. The killer is still out there. An innocent man sits in a dungeon, and an innocent woman, usually Arivania, the high elf from the stables, lies dead in the snow. The good ending requires you to be a better detective than the quest marker wants you to be. It requires a preemptive strike that defies the game's pacing to save a life that is scripted to end. Instead of running to your life to tattle on the wizard, you must take the evidence directly to Wunferth himself. This is a counterintuitive move. Usually you don't confront the suspect alone, but when you show him the necromancer's amulet, Wunferth doesn't attack. He identifies it immediately. He scoffs at your deduction skills, noting that he has been tracking the killer's pattern using magical anomalies. He predicts the next murder will happen tonight, in the Stone Quarter. Now the clock is ticking. You must rush to the market district. It is night. The snow is falling heavily, obscuring your vision. The market stalls are empty, save for a lone figure standing near the white phial. It is Arivania, and approaching her from the shadows is Calixto Corium, the curator of the House of Curiosities, knife in hand. This is one of the tightest timing windows in Skyrim. If you are too slow, Calixto initiates a scripted kill move. Once the animation starts, Arivania is dead, regardless of her health bar. She drops instantly. To save her, you must intervene the moment Calixto draws his weapon, but before he makes contact. You need to be aggressive. A shout like Ice Form or a paralyzing poison is ideal here. You have to physically disrupt his attack. If you succeed, Calixto abandons his target and attacks you. You put him down in the snow. Arivania, confused and terrified, runs away. But she is alive. Saving Arivania is the only way to truly complete the quest without collateral damage. In the other outcome, her death is the trigger that reveals the true killer. By skipping the false arrest of Wunferth, you short-circuit the killer's timeline. You deny him his final victim. The motivation behind these murders reveals a tragic, if twisted, obscure lore tidbit. When you loot Calixto's body, or search his chest, you find his journal. Calixto wasn't killing for the sake of causing pain, nor was he a traditional Daedra worshipper. He was trying to resurrect his sister, Lucilla. He believed that by harvesting the perfect body parts from various women, he could stitch together a vessel for her soul. It is a grim, Frankenstein-esque story of grief driven to madness. The necromancer's amulet you found was the catalyst, an artifact known in lore to slowly corrupt the minds of its wearers, driving them toward obsession and death. Calixto was likely a victim of the amulet's influence as much as his own sorrow. By stopping him, you aren't just killing a monster, you're ending a cycle of grief that has claimed multiple lives. You're also saving Wunferth from a reputation-destroying stint in prison. The old wizard might be grumpy, and he might dabble in questionable magic, but he didn't deserve to rot in the bloodworks for crimes he didn't commit. Blood on the Ice is infamous in the community not just for its story, but for its bugs. It is widely considered the most broken quest in the game. Scripts fail to fire, bodies don't spawn, and quest items get stuck in inventories forever. Some fans jokingly argue that the cursed nature of the quest is meta-commentary. The investigation is messy and frustrating because the code itself is haunted. There is also a debate about the strange amulet, the quest version of the Necromancer's amulet. If you kill Calixto too quickly, or if you don't sell the amulet to him before the final confrontation, you can get stuck with the strange amulet forever, which is a weaker version of the real artifact. The perfect ending requires you to sell him the evidence. Weird, I know. So he activates it, then loot the fully powered version off his corpse. It's a bit of 4D chess. Sell the murder weapon to the murderer so you can steal it back after you kill him. Walking through the Windhelm market the next day, seeing Aravanya sweeping the stables or manning her stall is a quiet triumph. The NPCs won't throw you a parade. Aravanya won't give you a unique reward. The game barely acknowledges that she survived. But you know that because you didn't trust the steward, and because you were fast on the draw, there is one less ghost haunting the streets of the City of Kings. Furthermore, clearing this quest allows you to purchase Yerim, the murder house itself. It's a bit macabre, sure, but after you pay for the cleaning service, which cleans up most of the blood and bones, it becomes one of the best player homes in the game. It has the best enchanting table setup and ample display cases. You're essentially gentrifying a serial killer's lair. The preemptive strike is a reminder that in Skyrim, the best outcomes aren't always handed to you in a dialogue tree. Sometimes they are won in the split-second decision to cast a spell, to run instead of walk, and to trust your instincts over the quest log. But as the snow settles in Windhelm and the city sleeps a little sounder, our eyes turn to shiny things. We leave the grime of the murder investigation for the glittering promise of fortune. We're going on a treasure hunt, perhaps the longest and most tedious in the game's history, but the payout at the end transforms the economy of Skyrim from a struggle into a joke. We are hunting for the stones of Barenziah. Leaving the blood-stained snow of Windhelm behind, we turn our attention to something far less morbid, though perhaps equally maddening. We dive into the inventory screen, scrolling past the potions and the sweet rolls, until we land on a specific item that has been taunting us for dozens of hours, the unusual gem. It sits there, hovering in a pink, ominous box, refusing to stack, refusing to be sold, and refusing to explain itself. This is the beginning of No Stone Unturned, a quest that is less of an adventure and more of a test of psychological endurance. But for those who persevere, the good ending is nothing short of infinite wealth. The premise is simple. You show the gem to Vex at the Thieves' Guild. She tells you it's a stone of Barenziah, one of 24 stripped from the legendary Queen's crown. To restore the Paragon, you need to find all of them. There are no quest markers. They are scattered across the map in the most random locations imaginable, on a Jarl's nightstand, inside a necromancer's cave, on a boat, in the Dark Brotherhood sanctuary. It is the ultimate scavenger hunt, designed to force you to explore every nook and cranny of the province. Most players hate this quest. They collect 5 or 6 stones, get frustrated, and leave the rest to gather dust in the world. The stones become permanent clutter in their inventory, a reminder of a job left unfinished. However, the good ending here is achieved by treating this quest as a priority rather than an afterthought. If you commit to the grind, using a guide, let's be honest, nobody finds them all organically, and return the 24 stones to Vex, you are sent to retrieve the crown itself from Tolvald's cave. When you bring it back, the crown is displayed in the Thieves' Guild cistern, restoring a sense of legitimacy to the ragged group of criminals. But the real reward is a passive ability called Prowler's Profit. Core in-game fact: Prowler's Profit is arguably the most broken economic perk in the game. The description is vague, saying it increases the chance of finding gems. This is a massive understatement. With this perk active, every single container in the game that can hold a gem, chests, burial urns, Draugr corpses, giants' toes, will now contain multiple high-value gems. You open a simple urn in a Nordic ruin, expecting 3 gold coins, and instead find 2 flawless diamonds, an emerald, and a ruby. This transforms the game's economy instantly. You go from scavenging iron daggers to sell for pocket change to walking out of a single dungeon with 50,000 gold worth of precious stones. You become the wealthiest individual in Tamriel. The good ending is the total liberation from scarcity. You can buy every house, purchase every spell tome, and train every skill without ever looking at the price tag. You don't loot bandits for their armor anymore. You are above that. You are the Diamond King of Skyrim. The lore behind the item adds a layer of historical weight to your riches. Obscure lore, tidbit. Barenziah is one of the most controversial and fascinating figures in Elder Scrolls history. She was the Queen of Morrowind, a lover of Tiber Septim, and a political powerhouse who survived centuries of intrigue. The books The Real Barenziah, which are censored in some games but present in Daggerfall, detail a life that makes the Game of Thrones look like a children's story. The crown represents her legacy, a symbol of Dunmer royalty that was stolen and broken. By restoring it, you aren't just getting rich. You're preserving a piece of First-Era history that the Thieves Guild had desecrated. You turn the guild from petty burglars into curators of history. Fan theory or community debate. The great debate surrounding this quest is entirely about timing. Is it worth it? Asked the forums. The consensus is a tragic irony. By the time most players naturally find all 24 stones, they are usually level 50 plus, have 100,000 gold, and have already bought everything they need. The reward comes too late to matter. The true good ending, therefore, belongs to the players who rush this quest immediately. These are the mad geniuses who spend the first 10 hours of their playthrough running past enemies to grab stones, unlocking Prowler's Prophet at level 15. For them, the rest of the game is a luxury cruise. They play a different Skyrim than the rest of us, a Skyrim where money is literally meaningless. There is a profound satisfaction in walking into a Draugr crypt after unlocking this perk. The burial urns, usually ignored as empty clutter, become loot boxes of joy. The sound of gems clinking into your inventory becomes a constant ASMR-like rhythm. You start leaving flawless garnets behind because they are too heavy for their value. It is a level of opulence that feels almost illegal. Moreover, completing the crown restores the Thieves Guild system to its visual glory as you complete Moorside, jobs in the main quest. The Guildhall cleans up, new merchants arrive, and the crown sits proudly on the bust of Barenziah, glowing in the candlelight. It is a visual representation of the guild's return to luck and prominence. You didn't just steal things, you built an empire. The good ending of the Stones of Barenziah is the realization that the greatest superpower in Skyrim isn't the voice, or magic, or stealth. It is compound interest. It is the ability to walk into a shop in solitude, buy the entire inventory, and not see your gold count drop. You have beaten the economy. With our pockets weighed down by diamonds and our bank account overflowing, we can afford to turn our attention to problems that money can't solve. We leave the glittering wealth of the Thieves Guild for the dark, brooding corridors of Castle Volkihar. We are going to talk to a vampire princess about her family issues, and we are going to attempt the most delicate conversational dance in the game, convincing an immortal to embrace mortality. From the gem-filled coffers of the Thieves Guild, we travel west to the foggy, vampire-infested island of Castle Volkihar. Here, the air smells of copper and sea salt, and the locals have a very strict no-sunlight policy. We are diving into the Dawnguard DLC, specifically the personal arc of Serana, the daughter of Cold Harbour, and arguably the most developed companion in the game. Serana is a tragic figure. She was locked away in a crypt for thousands of years with an Elder Scroll on her back. Her father, Lord Harkon, is a tyrannical megalomaniac who wants to blot out the sun. Her mother, Valerica, is hiding in the Soul Cairn. Serana's entire existence has been defined by her vampirism and her dysfunctional family. She is a vampire not by choice, but by a horrific ritual to Molag Bal. Most players finish the Dawnguard questline, killing Harkon and saving the world from eternal night, and leave it at that. Serana remains a vampire. She continues to wear her hood in the sun, complain about the weather and use her blood magic. It is the default ending. She accepts her nature. But there is a hidden good ending where Serana chooses to cure herself. She becomes human again. She walks in the sun without a hood. Her eyes change from the glowing orange of a predator to a natural green. She's reclaimed from Molag Bal's influence. Achieving this, however, requires a level of emotional intelligence that the game rarely demands. You cannot simply demand she get cured. If you ask her, "Have you thought about being cured?" too early or too aggressively, she shuts down. She tells you it's none of your business and refuses to ever speak of it again. The cure option is locked out permanently. To unlock the good ending, you must navigate a hidden dialogue tree throughout the entire DLC. You have to treat her like a person, not a monster or a quest object. The crucial conversations happen after key story beats. When she asks about your family, you must respond with empathy. When you defeat Harkon, you must wait for the dust to settle. Then, and only then, can you gently bring up the topic. You must choose the dialogue option. I think you'd be happier if you didn't have to look over your shoulder. This framing is vital. You aren't saying vampirism is evil, you're saying it is a burden. You're appealing to her desire for freedom, not your desire for a human waifu. If done correctly, she says she needs time to think. She leaves you for a few days. When she returns to Fort Dawnguard or the castle, she is human. She has visited Phalion in Morthal and undergone the ritual. She is cured. This ending is powerful because it represents Serana reclaiming her agency. Obscure lore. Tidbit. The Daughters of Coldharbour are pure-blooded vampires created directly by Molag Bal, the god of rape and domination. Their very existence is a testament to violation and control. By choosing to purge the vampiric blood, Serana is rejecting the trauma inflicted upon her by her father and the Daedric prince. She's ending a cycle of abuse that spanned eras. She's choosing to be mortal, to age, and eventually to die, because that mortality means she's finally hers. This ending is highly divisive. Many players prefer Vampire Serana because she's mechanically stronger. As a human, she loses her Vampire Lord abilities and her Drain Life spell, reverting to standard ice spikes and lightning. She becomes a weaker follower. Why nerf your best companion? The power gamers ask. Others argue that curing her ruins her character arc, claiming that accepting her vampirism is a form of self-acceptance. However, the human Serana proponents argue that the mechanical downgrade is irrelevant compared to the narrative victory. Seeing Serana stand in the courtyard of Fort Dawnguard, face turned up to the sun, smiling without burning, is one of the most heartwarming sights in the game. She comments on how warm the sun feels, how vibrant the colours are. She's experiencing the world for the first time in millennia not as a predator, but as a participant. It also resolves the awkwardness if you are playing a paladin or a Dawnguard loyalist. Having a vampire follower in a castle full of vampire hunters always felt tense. Isran tolerated her, but he didn't like it. With Serana human, she truly fits in. She's no longer the monster we use to kill other monsters. She's just a member of the team. The process of her cure, going to Morthal alone, also shows her independence. She didn't need you to hold her hand for the ritual. She made the decision, packed her bags, and got it done. It is the final step in her growth from the scared girl in the crypt to a woman who defines her own destiny. When you walk with human Serana, the dynamic shifts. She feels lighter. The heavy gothic burden of her lineage is gone. She's just an adventurer now, exploring Skyrim with her best friend, and in a world filled with ancient curses, and prophecies being just an adventurer is the happiest ending anyone can hope for. We have saved a dragon from the blades, a priest from cannibals, a revolutionary from prison, and a vampire from her curse. But there is one final journey to make. We must travel beyond the physical world to the afterlife itself. We are going to Sovngarde, but not just to kill Alduin. We are going to grant a warrior the rest he has been denied for 5,000 years, and so we arrive at the end of the road. Not just the end of the map, but the end of the progression bar itself. We have saved cities, rescued souls, and outsmarted gods. But there is one final encounter that awaits the Dragonborn who has done it all. The player who has reached level 80, who has maxed out their skill trees, and who stands atop the hierarchy of Skyrim with no more worlds to conquer. It is here, in the quiet streets of a major city, that a towering figure in pitch-black armour approaches you. He is the Ebony Warrior. He is the final boss of the game, not in terms of the main quest, but in terms of your personal journey. He tells you that he has done everything. He has slain dragons, defeated liches, and cleared dungeons. There is no challenge left for him in this mortal realm. His only wish is to be sent to Sovngarde with honour. But to enter the Hall of Valour he must die in combat against a worthy adversary. He challenges you to a duel at his campsite, the last vigil high in the Velothi Mountains. The standard approach, the bad ending if you will, is to treat this as just another loot drop. Many players, jaded by hundreds of hours of gameplay, simply Fusrodar him off the cliff the moment the fight starts. He falls to his death screaming. It is efficient, it is funny, but it is a profound disrespect. By killing him with gravity, or by sneaking up and slitting his throat before he draws his weapon, you deny him the one thing he craved, a warrior's death. You rob him of his ticket to Sovngarde. The good ending is to give him the fight of his life. You travel to the last vigil. It is a desolate, frozen peak, far removed from the politics of the Civil War or the threat of Alduin. The Ebony Warrior stands there waiting. He doesn't attack on sight. He nods. He respects that you came. To grant him his good ending, you must engage him honourably. No cheese tactics, no exploitation of pathfinding glitches. You draw your steel, you ready your spells, and you dance with him. The Ebony Warrior is one of the few enemies in the game who can use the Thum. He shouts unrelenting force and disarm. He has perks in heavy armour, one-handed, archery and block. He can reflect damage back at you. He is mechanically a mirror of the player. Fighting him fair is a brutal, exhilarating experience. He heals, he switches weapons, he adapts. When you finally land the killing blow, he doesn't curse you. He gasps. At last. Sovngarde. This spoken line is the confirmation of your success. If you kill him dishonourably, he dies in silence or with a generic groan. But if you defeat him in fair combat, his soul is released with joy. You haven't committed a murder, you have performed a sacrament. You have acted as the ferryman for a weary soul. This encounter raises a fascinating, obscure lore tidbit. The Ebony Warrior is a Redguard. You can see this if you loot his helmet or pickpocket him. In Elder Scrolls lore, Redguards do not go to Sovngarde, they go to the far shores. Sovngarde is exclusively the Nord afterlife, ruled by Shor. The fact that he desires Sovngarde, and presumably gets in, implies that admission to the Hall of Valor is not based on race, but on the cultural adoption of the Nord warrior ethos. He lived as a Nord hero, so he dies as one. It suggests that the faith of a warrior transcends their bloodline. The identity of the Ebony Warrior is one of the oldest mysteries in Skyrim. A popular theory is that he is the protagonist of a previous Elder Scrolls game, perhaps the Nerevarine, or the champion of Cyrodiil before the Shivering Isles, who has wandered Tamriel for eras looking for a challenge. Another theory suggests he is an aspect of Ebonarm, a forgotten deity of war from Daggerfall lore who was cut from later games. Ebonarm was the Black Knight, the god of war. By defeating him, you are essentially retiring an old god to make way for the new one, you. When the battle is over, and his massive body lies in the snow, the silence of the mountain returns. You can loot his armour, some of the best in the game, but it feels heavy. You leave him there, perhaps dragging his body to a respectful pose near his campfire, weapon in hand. You look out over the vista of Morrowind and Skyrim stretching below you. You have granted the final wish of the only other being in the world who understood what it meant to be this powerful. It is a sombre, fitting conclusion to your own story. You are now the Ebony Warrior. You are the one with no challenges left, and one day, perhaps another hero will climb a mountain to set you free. But for now, you sheathe your sword. The wind howls, but the cold doesn't bother you anymore. You have walked the path of the hero, the villain, the thief, and the saviour. You have found the hidden mercies in a harsh world. You have played the game, and for once, everyone won. The fire in the hearth has burned down to glowing, embers casting long, dancing shadows against the stone walls of our sanctuary. The wind outside has softened, no longer a howl, but a gentle rhythmic hush against the window pane. It is the sound of a world at rest. We have covered a lot of ground tonight, you and I. We have climbed the 7,000 steps to spare an ancient dragon, and we have descended into the darkest mines to free a king in rags. We have stood in the golden light of the Elder Gleam and the eerie blue glow of the Soul Cairn. We have turned away from the easy violence of the blade and chosen the harder, quieter path of the diplomat, the healer, and the friend. These good endings we spoke of, they aren't always about the rewards, are they? Sure, the Prowler's Prophet is nice, and the mask of Clavicus Vial is stylish, but that's not why they stick with us. They matter because they let us assert our humanity in a world of polygons and code. They let us say no to the darkness even when the game tries to push us toward it. They remind us that even in a land of dragons and Daedra, the most powerful magic is simply being kind when you don't have to be. The map is cleared, the quest log is empty, the loot is sorted, your character is safe standing in a warm tavern or a cozy home waiting for you to return. But for now, their journey is paused, and yours is just beginning, the journey into sleep. Let the weight of the armour fall from your shoulders, let the noise of the shouts and the clash of steel fade into the background hum of the night. The sky above Tamriel is vast and filled with stars, the same stars that watch over you now. The moons, Massa and Secunda, are drifting slowly across the velvet dark, guiding you toward a deep, dreamless peace. You have done well, Dragonborn. The realm is safe. The stories have been told. Close your eyes, let the darkness wrap around you like a warm cloak, and drift away. Sweet dreams.